Welcome, everybody, to the Zotero demonstration. This will probably be about 25, 35 minutes tops. And then I can have some time if you have questions. I'm happy to answer them. I'm Dr. Hill, for those of you who do not know me. I work with the Writing Center and in the Humanities Department. So today's talk is going to be about using Zotero to manage research sources. And Zotero is a free and open source application that is designed to help you. It's designed to help you manage, collect, integrate, cite, and organize primary and secondary research sources. I've used Zotero for probably 8 or 10 years. So I found it a very helpful replacement for something like EndNote or ProCite, which kind of got expensive over time. So Zotero is completely free, it's open source, and it's very lightweight. It's actually started out just as a plugin for the Firefox browser, but now they have a standalone database. There's also some cloud functionality that you can save your database to your Zotero account and log into it from anywhere. I'm going to focus mainly on the kind of local functions of Zotero today, the ones that I've used most consistently. And I've found it pretty accessible. And so I'll first, show you how to get it. Then I will talk a little bit about the actual functionality, adding a source, how do you add and manage sources in Zotero. Then we'll talk about exporting bibliographies and bibliographic citations. And then I can try and answer any of the questions that you might have. Again, I've been a Zotero evangelist for a long time. This was extremely helpful in a couple of books that I've written, and when I was doing my dissertation, Zotero was a huge help. So let me repost to the chat the handout that I'm using. You guys can use that to follow along, and you can obviously take it from here and download it and use it as you see fit. So I will just jump in, and I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you can see what's going on. Well, before I start, does anybody have any questions before I get going?
No, I think you're doing a very good job, a very big favor. Even though I saw your email this morning, I am just jumping right into it.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Number one.
But not, yeah, now we are.
Okay.
It's coming up, yeah.
I don't know why Zoom is very squirrely with its share functionality sometimes, because I have multiple displays, and if it doesn't like how I'm displaying things or how my displays are oriented, it will share different things. So you can get Zotero at the Zotero site, www.zotero.org. Again, this is run by nonprofits, digital humanities folks. You do not have to log in or download or create an account to get it. All you have to do is go here and click the download button. And you can choose what platform you want. Zotero 5.0 for Windows, that's the latest one. It also runs on Mac and versions of Linux. So whatever platform that you guys are using for your research or for your day-to-day work, you can download a Zotero that works for it. For people who are working on Chrome OS, I believe that stuff like I don't believe that this works 100% on that because there's not a fully just cloud-based application. I can do a little bit of research to find if there is just a cloud-based version of this, because I know you can access your Zotero library online, but I don't know what the application capabilities are just for fully cloud-based computing. But we're going to talk about the actual app. So we can download it for Mac, Linux, or Windows. Zotero Connector is also a very helpful little helper app. This is the connector app for Firefox, which enables you to, when you're in a document or on a web-based resource, you'll get a little icon in your search bar or in your URL bar that you can save the source and its citation directly to Zotero. So that is a very, very helpful little feature too. So we can download it and install. Just follow the steps to install. I'm not going to go through that because it's already installed on my machine, but it's not very difficult to do it. And if it's helpful, I can post a little video that shows you how to install. I can do a clean install of it if you like. So Zotero.org. And this will give you, this is a little picture of what the app actually looks like. Hold on. Okay. All right, so when you go through the steps of installing Zotero, you get a little icon that will look something like this. It'll say either Zotero standalone or Zotero 5.0. And I'm going to bring my instance of it up. Okay, 1 second. All right, so this is the main Zotero interface. This is the main Zotero database. And the basics of it, it's essentially a relatively simple flat file database that through this we can sort and store all manner of sources. So hold on, let me make sure that. And the basic workspace is divided into kind of 3 main sections by default. We have our kind of navigation over here into your Zotero library, and that's the Zotero terminology for your various sources. And that they do have functionality that you could have more than one library, but I've always used, there's different ways of kind of tagging and organizing sources. I'll walk you through those. So there's kind of a navigation. You can have your file manager here, and anything you delete will go in your trash. The main Zotero window, item type, title, creator, date. There's also a little icon over here that will ask you to be able to add different columns or resort little columns. Yeah, sorry, that's right there. You can add publication, you can add year, lots and lots of different other columns that you might find useful. So you can add, like the default, I've always used a relatively minimal kind of item type, title, creator, date, all the key information in the main display. So and this is my active library from one of my previous projects that I've been working on. So
can you just try and show it to add one column of your choice? Oh,
sure. Yeah. All you have to do is click on this little, it's a kind of small, but you can see it.
Yeah.
You want to scroll down, and I can put, like, just say my date added to see where, when I added it to the database, and you can add as many columns as you need.
Okay. You can delete this now if you like.
Yep. All you have to do is unclick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty useful. The ones that I use most, obviously, are the item title, date creator. Now the detail of every given source is over here on the right. And I'm going to make this a little bigger just for the sort for the purposes of seeing it. So here, I'm going to go to Yusuf Komunyaca's Copacetic. It's a volume of poetry. It's a book. So this will change the detail view over here. And you could see that there's lots more fields over here than are present in this summary field, in the summary section of Zotero. So here we could add a lot of bibliographic information, a lot of information about this thing, depending on the needs of your discipline, the needs of your particular project, the type of information that you store in there is up to you. This, for each type, it is specialized. So this is the book type, the book item type, but you can actually change the item type, and it will change the fields that are present. So it's kind of a relatively flexible, and I'll show you a couple of different. I'll show you like this, the TV broadcast. This was, Dr. Kildare. In some of my work, I cite the entire series as a reference point. So, but you can also, if you're citing a specific episode, see it has these specialized fields throughout. And there's tons and tons of that. So the right-hand window is our detail. The center window is our kind of general window and our kind of summary window, both very useful for different things. So now to add a citation, to add a source, you can see up here, let me just shrink this back down a little bit. And we'll go through adding a source or two, and I'll show you how it works. So to add a citation, you'll see this little plus icon over here. So we can choose some of the basic ones, the most common books, book sections. For me, these are the ones that I use all the time, and Zotero will learn how often. So if you're always doing journal articles, your periodical articles, journal articles, the quick kind of ads will show up here. I'm going to add a book to start. So I'm just going to click down in here to book. And you'll see that I have it basically gives a blank line in the database. And I'm going to add a book called Unconventional Warriors. A fantasy of the American fighter and television. So the author of such book about Unconventional Warriors is me. So author Hill Matthew. All right. Again, I don't have to put an abstract in, but if it's helpful, we can put an abstract in. We can put some notes in. Done in New York, and the publisher is Prager Publications, 2018. So again, if it's part of a volume, a series, edition, if there's, Lordy, if I ever got to a second edition, language, if you have the ISBN or anything that you find helpful, library catalog, call number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it is automatically saved. So once you click out of it, it is saved, and now you've made a new entry. So you'll see here that in this detail, there's a couple of different tabs, and we'll talk about those in a second, but I wanted to show you just really quickly, especially for author, like say if you have an editor or a series editor, a contributor, a set of contributors, you can add as many lines for author as you want that to take into account different roles. So I don't know, in my field, that's very helpful because a lot of books have editors or translators rather than simple monograph authors. All right, so you'll see here we have info, notes, tags, and related. So the notes here, this is just a blank text annotation field. You can annotate and add stuff in as much as you need. If you have, if you want to do a summary, if you want to do add different notes that point you to specific passages, specific uses of this document, that is all built into the system. So I'm going to delete my note because I didn't really put anything in there. I don't use this functionality a whole lot. I have used it before, and it is searchable. So I do happen to use the tags functionality a lot. Now, so a nice thing about Zotero is it enables you to tag any source with any tag that you want, kind of like a hashtag on Twitter or social media. I have found this very helpful in kind of associating different research sources with different projects. I've tended to use this as kind of a running database of all the sources that I'm using at any given time. So I like to go in and I put a tag in for a specific project. So let me see. All right, so I'll give you an example. The book, The Best and the Brightest by David Halberstam, 1972. This was it's a book on the Vietnam War. It was part of a project I was doing called Revising the Resistance, which eventually came into became another project. But so I tagged it with RTR, Revising the Resistance, Chapter 5. But I could add any other tag I want, unlimited. Like you can see here, this came from the same thing, Revising the Resistance, Chapter 2. Let's see. Daniel Heller's The Dog Stars, which is a book. I was researching this for a book I was working on called Dystopian States of America. And again, I tagged it with DSA. So you can see there's a bunch of tags. Dystopian War, I was talking about Pat Frank's The Last Babylon. And again, these are unlimited numbers of tags that you can use. And the nice thing, you can also search and filter your sources just by the tags that you put on. So this is all the sources that have RTR, Revising the Resistance. So everything I used for that particular project that I tagged with it are listed in this filtered list now. So the search function also, if I'm looking at stuff for specifically on the Vietnam War, which was one of my research interests, I could search for Vietnam, and that will both search the tags and will search the titles. If I want to see everything by David Halberstam, or everything it mentions David Halberstam, so you could see here, Best and Brightest, Making of a Quagmire, Once Upon a Distant World, et cetera, et cetera. So the searching and tagging is a pretty good little feature that makes managing and sifting through large amounts of data pretty easy. It's obviously easiest if you do this from the jump. I've been doing tagging these things, so I can actually. I've been tagging these sources as I go. Whatever research project I'm working on at the time, I tag the source as I'm going, which makes it easier. one limitation is that if you already have a pretty giant section of research, and whatever source you're using doesn't have a tag feature, obviously that might make things a little more difficult, just because you'd have to go and tag your sources as you after the fact, which would be a little bit more burdensome. So related, you can also cross-reference different sources. So say if I had the film version of 1984, or the film, say my citation is 28 Days Later, which is a film by Danny Boyle, but I also wanted to make a related note that 28 weeks later, the sequel is also related. Zotero will allow you to tag in that way as well. So so if you want to do another source like a journal article, so right now you can see here I have book section, film, software, and TV broadcast. You just scroll down here, you could see that the system gives you the ability to cite numerous kinds of sources. And I have found the Zotero folks are pretty responsive in terms of if there's something here that if you find a strange source that is not in Zotero for some reason, that they were pretty good about adding. I believe someone needed to do a blog post when it first came out, and they didn't have a citation for that, and it was up relatively quickly based on their the needs of the user base. So I can just click here, journal article, and you get the same thing. So I'll put an article in it called Exposing the Human Fund by Arthur Vandelay. Journal of Nonprofit Ethics. And you can see here the stuff that you add, like these are all journals that I've added. They autocomplete and the system learns. Journal of Nonprofit Ethics, volume 28, issue 2, and it's on page. And again, with the journal article, journal abbreviation, language, DOI, ISN, short title, US URL, when you accessed it, Library of Congress, all the call numbers, et cetera, still are in there for journal articles. So you can see, I'm going to pop out of there. So we have now the journal article Exposing the Human Fund, 1990 to 2002. It's all in here. And again, we can pop in there and edit any field that we need. You can see here, there's an article on Heisenberg's uncertainty principle in the literature of the Vietnam War. I think this is probably one that I downloaded because it has like from EBSCOhost, because it has a lot of extra information. Sometimes when you use the Zotero connector, it will import all this information directly into Zotero. And obviously you can delete what you don't want, but it is sometimes very helpful. I think also, yeah, it also will tag automatically too, depending on what you use. Okay, so any questions about the basic functionality? Okay, so the other big function here, not only is this very helpful for storing your sources and kind of organizing your sources, can add attachments to URLs. You can attach a stored copy of a file. Obviously, if you're attaching a lot of PDF files or other sort of files, this will increase the size of your database considerably, just as an FYI. I tend to not keep my PDFs in Zotero. No real reason for that, just because I like to keep the system lightweight. That's just me. But you can attach your PDFs and you can attach links or URLs to the system, to the sources as well. So the other extremely helpful feature of Zotero is the bibliography function. So the bibliography function, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. Obviously, all this bibliographic information that's stored in the information section of Zotero can be, you can create bibliographies either on the fly, by tag, or by a click and drag. So now I'm going to show you, I'll show you some of these methods. So hold on. Now, I'm going to minimize this a little bit. So first and foremost, the easiest way to do a bibliography in Zotero is just to highlight the sources that you want, and we can export the citation. So I'm going to click some of these at random. You'll see that they stay highlighted. I held down Control and I just left clicked on everything. Now I'm going to right click, and you can see that we can either export the items, and that means it exports the bibliographic information to another bibliographic system, or we can create a bibliography from the items. So I'm going to create a bibliography from the items. And it's going to give me an option as to what kind of bibliography that I want to do. As a English scholar, I'm going to use the Modern Language Association. So I'm going to click that. And that will create an RTF file. And I'll just put it on my desktop. See. So RTF is just basically that text file that is a rich text format. It's basically a text file with formatting. You can see my bibliography comes out fully formatted according to the MLA 8th edition. Now, this works with pretty much any of the included styles. A lot of people use APA. I'm going to do the same thing, actually. And if I wanted to copy it to my clipboard instead of saving as an RTF file, I can use that. So I'm going to try that. Let me pop out here. So you can see now that I have an APA formatted bibliography of the same sources. So this is really nice. I have found it extraordinarily helpful because as an English scholar, I'm usually using MLA, but all the 3 books that I've written, all have required me to do Chicago style. But with Zotero, instead of spending hours and hours and hours changing all my citations to Chicago, it took me about 30 seconds to create a new bibliography in Chicago style. Now, the massive amount of footnotes that are needed in Chicago style, different problem. MLA works much differently than Chicago in terms of its notation style. But in terms of the works cited and the end bibliographies, much, much, much easier. So let me minimize this as well. Now, another thing that I like about Zotero, let me take a break. Is that it enables click and drag bibliography. So if I wanted to just grab a bibliographic citation, I just literally clicked it and dragged it across. And the default here would be MLA, but because that's the default that I set in my preferences. That you can set over here. So this quick copy, the default format for me would be MLA again, but I can do American Chemical Society, American Medical, American Psychological, Chicago, all those stuff. All I have to do is set that instead of MLA, and I can pull it right into a bibliography. So you can set those in your preferences in the preferences section. So we can also add styles, get additional styles. The sync feature, if you create a Zotero account, you can sync your bibliographic information with the Zotero cloud so that whatever you log in, if you get a new computer, if you just install Zotero from on a new computer and you just log in, you can automatically sync up your Zotero libraries. That's pretty helpful as well. So trying to think anything else. So those are the main features. There's other kind of aspects of Zotero that not really covering today. Just that again, you can sync with the Zotero. If you have you create a Zotero account, you can sync your computer and you can sync the sources. You can also create web screenshots from Zotero. I can show you that really quickly. If you do the Zotero connector, I'm going to go to just Google Scholar because I think it's a good example of it, I believe. Let's see if I'll find. All right, so if I go to or maybe go to Google Books instead. Okay, so if I go to Andrew Tate's Apocalyptic Fiction, a book I just recently used. No, it's not working. Okay, I have to do a little bit more research because they must have changed how they use the Zotero connector, because sometimes there's a little Zotero icon here that will pop up. Oh, there it is. There it is. Sorry, they moved it. You can see here, since I have the Zotero connector active, I can save this one. Once I get this little icon up here, I'm going to save it. And when I pop back into Zotero, we should be able to see apocalyptic fiction. So now I have the book Apocalyptic Fiction. And I lost my, there it is. And you'll see here, look, there has a giant abstract as well, Bloomsbury, the date, all the required elements of the citation. So, are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Greetings, Doc. This is Dr. Rice in criminal justice. I appreciate you, Dr. Hill, sharing. And just so I'm clear, and there's always that student in the class that may sound like they're not focused here. So it seems like there's a lot of manual work up front. So this isn't something where you can kind of download it in your articles and it will immediately populate. There's still some manual stuff you have to do in order to get the information that you need to be reflected in the platform, correct?
Well, that all depends. This does have some do you use a system like this now, like ProCite or EndNote or something like that?
I don't, but I have started to dabble with some qualitative research platforms such as NVivo, but again, you have to kind of drop in information, and you still have to do this manual work as well that you have to do there.
Yeah.
But I was leaning towards, with using the systems that are generally, or being able to organize within the library accounts but at times that can change. And so I don't want to lose that information.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of looking at this.
Yeah. The nice thing about Zotero is that especially with that little Zotero connector that I was just talking about, that a lot of that information, when you get icons like this, you can populate it automatically.
Okay.
So, depending on, I know you get, Zotero works with like EBSCO and JSTOR.
Okay.
I know that the Zotero connector really works with those. So, it might be just a fact of like looking up your citations and going back to the EBSCO and JSTOR entries in those databases and just clicking and importing it into Zotero.
Yeah, because in watching and kind of looking at what you presented, on your desktop, and you can put it on SharePoint, but on your SharePoint account, I've tried to create different folders and for different years, but then after a point, it's all over the place. And so this seems like something that could be helpful in terms of, just organizing and keeping track of not only contemporary articles, but also some articles you may have used in the past that you may want to refer to.
Yeah, I started probably in 2004, 2005, I started using something like ProCite, I think I got ProCite or EndNote, but I got an older version of it and then they deprecated it. So they wanted like $200 for another copy of it. And then Zotero was coming online about that time. So I just imported like the 100 or 150 entries that I had from my ProCite database. I imported it into Zotero and it was, pretty much all there. I had to do a couple little tweaks because it was a new program. But after that, once you have that, yes, there is that upfront work. But once it's there, and especially if you're using that Zotero connector, it's not too burdensome in my view. So,
well, I'm definitely going to attempt to use it, and I'll definitely reach back out and give you my thoughts as I start to kind of organize some of the articles and the book chapters and other information that I have in folders. But it looks like a tool that could be helpful. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and please feel free to send me an email, mhill@coppin.edu, on the Writing Center website. I'm on the Humanities website. I'm happy to work with you and help you through it.
Hey, sounds good. Thank you.
So any other questions, comments, nasty remarks?
Yeah, just tiny question.
Okay.
May not be relevant. Can you do once you have a set of collections of your choice, can we do like a keyword search and run through that?
You can, yeah, it allows you to search through titles, tags, and I think, let me say,
I see.
all fields and tags. So if you put keywords in, or in your notes or in your tags, yeah, so if you tag it with your keywords, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be, and if it was author and title, but any field that's in this info, yeah. So if you put anything you put in this info field,
right,
search by.
So suppose you have already this abstract. Within an abstract, can we do any deep searching?
Say again.
Within this abstract, say we have about 8 or 10 articles, and within the abstracts, can we do a deep searching?
Oh, if it mentioned the specific articles in the abstract, yeah. It should.
Okay.
Yeah, since it's in the abstract field, and the abstract field is just plain text. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe a good idea, just create tags as many as you like.
Yep. See, and
then it will search.
I just did a search on Shelley.
Okay.
Because I saw that Shelley is mentioned in this abstract, and it returned it in the search.
Oh, wow. Yeah, exactly. That was my question.
Yep.
Okay. That's good. Thank you very much.
So, and if you all need it, I can also go through. I'd have to refresh my own memory on how to import from another program like ProCite or EndNote. But I remember it's not difficult. It just I don't know the process right off the top of my head on how to do it. If I could probably record a little Panopto and put it up if someone's interested in that.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to archive this on the Writing Center website. And if I do any other little videos on Zotero, I will also put those on the Writing Center website too.
Wow. Thank you very much.
So, any other questions, concerns?
No, that's no concern. Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, no problem at all. It was nice to have you. So if you have any feedback for me, please send it to me via email, mhill@coppin.edu. I'm happy to hear your thoughts. If you try this out and it's useful, please let me know. If you had a question or anything else, I'm happy to work with you. You were trying to expand the scope of the service that the Writing Center does to kind of work with faculty a little bit more. And that's what part of this workshop is about. So I'm always here to consult.
Thank you very much for your offer.
All right.
Take care.
So if there's nothing else, I want to thank you guys so much for coming. It was nice to talk with you, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Hill, and you have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.